Guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Shurina. I'm your host. I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best brain body tools to feel, look, and do your best. Folks, feeling, looking, and doing your best, it all depends on well-functioning brain that you, by the way, can control. I think the confusion about the brain doing its own thing, and we often don't understand why, and sometimes it feels that it works against us and it's not really on board with our goals. So this confusion comes from the fact that the brain doesn't just take one piece of information, your goal setting, your thoughts, your plans. The brain takes in the information in your environment, inside of you, and what you think also, kind of, but environment and what happens in your body, like your energy status, for example, the amount of energy that cells make on a regular basis. So the brain takes in all this information, not just what you think to yourself and your desires. And then the brain makes a decision and creates a certain physiological biochemical state that makes you think certain things, feel certain things, and do certain things. So in that notion, the brain always has its way. So very often to my clients, I would say this phrase: when you fight your biology, you lose every time. It's not even my phrase. I don't remember who exactly said it, but that's exactly true. When you fight your biology with your thinking and planning, you will always lose, sooner or later. That's why, for example, when you approach things like, weight loss or some sports competition, you need to work with your biology, meaning not undermining core principles of survival and taking care of your body instead of just pushing, not allowing it to recover and function properly, right? So whatever goal you have, if you start fighting your biology, pushing yourself where you shouldn't be pushing and you should be listening more, the biology will always fight back and you will get stressed, you will get sick. There is something that's going to happen that will put you back on track exactly where you need to be to maintain optimal for this specific situation in your life. So just remember, when you fight your biology, and your brain is part of that biology, you lose every time. So you need to learn how to work with your biology. And today, as you probably guessed from the title of this episode, we are talking about habit formation. And habit formation, folks, it's the same. I'm lucky enough, and we're all lucky enough, to have access to quite great research from neuroscience labs, from behavior psychology labs, from different research institutes that did research on human beings, how we form habits and how to do it better. Now, we probably still don't have a perfect solution, but we do have a much better solution than if you just try to brute force it and try to just tell yourself to stick with certain habits or quit certain habits, and then learning that you can't do either, build new habits effectively, or quit the habits, the patterns that no longer work for you, right? So today, I'm going to teach you how to build habits by science. This also is an episode that I will recommend to a lot of my clients to listen to, because during our coaching, we don't always have the time to go deeper into habit formation science. Like, that's not what my clients pay me, even though I believe I need to do more of that, because that will make the whole behavior change process much easier, much faster. So habits, how do we form habits? Before forming habits, folks, if you want to maintain certain habits or quit, certain habits and maintain new behaviors, if you want to do it faster, your habits should always start with a question, why? Like, why do I want to form this new habit? Why do I want to quit this new habit? What's the vision of my life that I'm going to build by applying these new habits or quitting certain habits. And connected to this why, there is another question. Who am I building? Who am I becoming with this kind of habits? And so this identity piece and your inner motivation, your internal motivation, your emotional reason, your strong emotional reason to change your habits, and the personality, the identity that reason is a part of. Those two things will be the most powerful tools to keep going with your habits, even when it gets inconvenient, even when you get busy, even when you don't have to think or do a lot of things, even when you don't have time, when you feel tired. Those two things, when you are very clear on them, will keep you going. That's why I think one of my superpowers is forming habits long term and quitting whatever habits don't work for me really, really fast and effectively. Why is that? Well, because I trained myself to always connect to my strong emotional reason to act. And I trained myself how to connect to the identity that this reason belongs to, right? Like, for example, if I want to be a great entrepreneur, I need to understand the sales process, because sales process is not just about making money. It's also about making people aware that your product can, or your service can help them. So if I want to be a great entrepreneur in my field, then I got to understand sales, right? And this is my why. And my who is a great entrepreneur, a great coach also, but a coach who needs to serve a lot of people, needs to become a great entrepreneur to scale their vision, right? And yes, you can have your team, but initially, you need to learn that process yourself before scaling this. So this is my why and who for learning sales. And that's why an hour a day I dedicate to at least an hour. That's usually actually end up a couple of hours or 3 hours I dedicate to learning about sales, whether that's reading books or listening to audio or like podcasts about sales and marketing, or watching video trainings. So like right now I'm going through this challenge training, but then also on top of that, I do read books on sales. Right now I'm going through, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. So the point is, I know exactly why I need to do that every day for at least an hour. That's, of course, subjective, and I created this 1 hour myself, but in the context of my life, this is what matters. This is what makes sense. So back to the idea of why and who. So you can see that I'm not going to be quitting that habit anytime soon until I become satisfied with my sales, with my marketing skills. So this is my why, this is my who. And that's why, again, the chance of me not following through is very small. But at the beginning, especially at the beginning of any habit formation or quitting any habit, that's the struggle phase. That's the discomfort phase that you're going to feel. You can, and I also used some helpers that in research have been proven the most effective when it comes to habit formation or quitting habits. So let's start with habit formation. The first thing you want to do when you decide to form a habit, when you decide to take action consistently, you want to ask yourself, and this is called habit recipe. You want to give yourself the answer to these questions. How, when, and where am I going to do this thing? Like, for example, for me, learning more about sales and marketing. How, when, and where? So how? I'm going to be either reading books, listening to podcasts, watching video trainings, going through trainings. When? For me, it's from 4 to 5 p.m. That is a great time frame when I can do that on most days. There is only one day right now that I'm not able to do that, and so I just do it later. Where? I do it in my house, and wherever that house is right now in South Africa, Cape Town, and I use my computer on my phone, depending on what exactly I'm going to do on that specific day. So how, when, and where? This is a habit recipe, and you literally need to walk yourself through this process in your head. How, when, and where am I going to do this habit several times? I read a book, How to Change. And in that book, the author brings up the research about how they increased the amount of people who went voting just by calling those people who, registered to vote and asking them this exact question: how, when, and where are you going to vote? How, when, and where? And people who answered showed up with just a big percentage bigger, and they increased the amount of people who went and voted for quite a considerable percentage. So that works, folks. How, when, and where. Another concept that I'm going to teach you here is habit sandwiches. And habit sandwiches has to do with the idea that the brain usually doesn't remember a habit or an action in isolation. When we do things consistently, one after another, like for example, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or for example, doing your workout, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or in whichever order, usually all of us have some sort of morning routine, things that we do in order. So the brain doesn't remember things in isolation. It remembers it as a sequence. So you start doing this, then that happened, then that happened. And habit sandwich is this idea that the new habit that you want to create, you put it in between the habits that you already do. You create a new sequence, but because the sequence is already there, it is easier to install. It seems from the research and human data, it's easier to install that habit right in between. That's why habit sandwich. You're kind of like making a sandwich. There is a habit that you do, you put something in between, and there's another habit that you do. When it comes to my sales training, for example, there are clients calls before my sales learning, there is my dinner after my sales learning. So that is the sequence that I would do. And before there was actually nothing. Well, I would actually do some reading, some other stuff. And now I just put the sales process and it fits right in. And so now I finish my calls with the clients, I do the sales training, I have my dinner and do everything else that I need to do or I want to do during the day, right? So that is a habit sandwiching. So first, the most important is habit recipe. How, when, and where you're going to do it. And if you can make it a part of your habitual sequence already, that's going to make it more stickable. Now, okay, you know when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it. To not forget, now a lot of my clients, when we started introducing new habits, like a whole sequence of new habits, and they already have busy lives, very often families and very often businesses and some things that they're personally working on. So they simply forget. And we get on the call in a week and they tell me, well, Angela, I actually forgot about that one completely. And to prevent that from happening, because at the beginning we can indeed forget. And to prevent that from happening, there is this concept that I first read, I believe, in the book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And James talks about hot triggers. Sometimes it's also hot reminders, depending on what you use. But hot trigger is this concept of a reminder put where and when you can take the action. So compared to cold trigger, hot trigger, like for example, a very common habit that I would work on with a lot of my clients when we work on recovery is foam rolling. And for a lot of folks, foam rolling, it's a part of winding down habit or routine. And a lot of my clients like doing that before sleep. Now, before going to sleep, a lot of people already have their routine, and at the beginning they often forget. And so what I tell them is like, okay, put your foam roller on your bed. Put your foam roller where you're gonna go to bed, or maybe if you take a shower, put it right in front of the entrance to the shower. And this is going to be right there. And before you take your habitual action, you'll see that and you'll remember that, I needed to do that. So for different people, of course, there is a variation of that. For example, for cold showers, just yesterday, I was talking to a client of mine and he said, well, I just forgot about cold shower. Like, well, what do you do before cold shower? If you brush your teeth, etc., put something that is out of place, like a bright sticky note or maybe bright cup or plate right in your sink where you brush your teeth. And so when you get there, you'll remember, I needed to take cold shower, right? So this is the hot trigger, because right then and there, you can and should be taking the action. That's where you wanted to take an action. So this is the hot trigger. Hot reminder is more like if you, for example, want to do something right before, if you work in an office and you want to do something right after you go out of the office, I don't know, maybe go and work out, maybe go and shop for healthy food, then you set the reminder for the time that right before going out of the office. So you get that reminder, and that's exactly when and where you need to do that action. So put your hot reminders and hot triggers where it makes sense, but the main concept is put it there where you can and will take the action. Not like you put reminder in the morning about foam rolling on your phone, and then by the time it's time to sleep and you're supposed to be doing foam rolling, you don't even remember. It's nowhere on your radar. So hot triggers, hot reminders, they really do work when you at this beginning stage, and forgetfulness is the thing before it becomes a part of your habitual routine. And then, of course, once you install the trigger and you started the repetitions, you got to put the reps. There is this also saying that I love using: consistency before intensity, or consistency first, intensity second, meaning you do the stuff consistently first. However imperfect, you focus on just not skipping the habit. If it's cold shower, just take it on, just turn it on, turn it off, whatever that is, but consistency first. So put in the reps, right? And don't just put in the reps, but also track them physically. By physically, I mean you have to do something action-wise. You have to either put something in some app, even better, much better actually, from research, from neuroscience and psychology research. When you track stuff physically, like you have maybe a wall calendar where you put across every time you, work out or you do take cold shower, or you have sticky notes and you put a sticky note for every action taken. And somewhere on the wall, you start having this line, this chain. And James Clear called this "don't break the chain" method. So basically, your objective is to just never break the chain and track the consistency, track the reps. Maybe you have a notebook, something, you gotta take the action to track it. What does tracking actually do for your brain? What it does, a couple of things very important that help with habit formation. So number one, it creates this sunk cost fallacy that the brain is a victim of. So basically what it means is when we do something consistently, when we invest energy into something, the brain doesn't want to stop it because you've already invested so much energy, so you better get reward. Otherwise, it's a complete waste, and there is nothing worse for our brain than this feeling of loss and wasted energy, because that means that you just wasted a bunch of energy that your life depends on and didn't get anything. So the brain doesn't like it. And that's why once you start getting the momentum, and once you track this momentum, this sunk cost fallacy is turned on, and it actually works for you, because now you don't want to quit. You have this chain. And James Clear recommends to never miss more than one day. So if you miss one day, if something happens, just keep going and keep tracking. The second thing that happens when you track stuff, every time you track, you put a new sticky note, you put, a new mark on your calendar, what happens is you get a feeling of progress, that you are moving forward. And every time there is a progression, the feeling of progression, some indicator of progression, your brain releases a little bit of dopamine, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. And that dopamine helps to wire that habit faster. Also, if you celebrate each time, just making yourself feel good about another accomplishment of daily habit, when you celebrate it in the 20 seconds after accomplishing the habit, that also boosts that dopamine production, and dopamine helps you to wire any behavior. So the more dopamine actually is released, the faster, the stickier the behavior gets, right? So if you can celebrate really well, then you get more dopamine, and the behavior is going to get stickier faster. On average, they say human beings build new habits somewhere between 18 to 254 days on average. So if you want to make that average shorter for yourself for a specific habit, then do this. Track and celebrate your progress, and you get more dopamine released, and that's how you accelerate the habit formation. Another concept here that you want to use, and that's been confirmed to be one of the most effective ways or helpers to help you to build habits faster. Use your environment to, like with hot triggers, we already touched upon this. So when you install, so to speak, a trigger in your environment, you already use your environment as something that helps you to do that habit. But then you can use environment in all the different ways. Like for example, with my sales training, I could open up my computer, prepare notes, so everything is ready to go, and it reminds me that I need to do that. And also maybe there are some indicators about my goals, how I want to have this vacation in Turkey with my family at the end of this summer. And by the way, June 1st, so happy beginning of European summer. I'm in South Africa, and they always remind me that it's winter here, Angela. What are you talking about? But anyhow, so that is, how I use my environment to help me to stick with the action. Then you can use the environment for healthy eating, for example, and only buy foods that are now on a healthy list for you, and leave all the other stuff in the store. Change the places where you eat out, so you can only have the healthy options, right? For workouts, put your workout clothing right like in the middle, I don't know, of your living room, or right if you go to the gym when you wake up, like right by your bed, have everything ready to go. Maybe put it I don't know, somewhere where you can notice, have an accountability buddy. It's also using your environment with a person in it that will either remind you or go with you, right? So that is how you use your environment. And in the research, that has been shown to be one of the most powerful ways. I think the most powerful way is always accountability and social aspects. So if you can have someone who can keep you accountable, or also different sorts of pledges where, for example, you will have to pay someone or some charity that you don't like certain amount of money if you don't stick with your habit. So those also work. Or for example, if you put, that those sticky notes on your wall, and somebody else in your family can see that, and then they see that one day it disappears, or you stopped putting that stuff, and they will remind you of your inconsistency, and that always feels bad. And so people, just remember that we people will always show up more and better and more consistently when we are accountable to someone, or we have some sort of penalty for not showing up, penalty that is meaningful to us, of course. And so this is the most powerful way to build habits, folks. And I think the last but not least, I just want to add that intensity first, or consistency first, intensity second. When building habits, a lot of folks, especially high performance folks, ambitious entrepreneurs, they try to install all of the habits all at once, and that really works. Now, for a challenge, it can work when you have the accountability, when you have someone constantly reminding you, when you have the best strategy. Yeah, you can work on several habits, but more often than not, folks, if you're right now struggling with some habit, then simplify it, make it tiny, focus on just one thing, one aspect, and get the consistency in. And once that becomes automatic, when that becomes easy, you add stuff in. So always, simplify it, and consistency first, intensity second. And the last piece, I think, is on the breaking habits. Like maybe you want to quit eating, sugar, or quit smoking, or quit, what else can you quit? Or quit scrolling your phone, just for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes every day, but you just don't do anything good with it. You don't even enjoy it. You don't even know why you do it, right? But then, you want to quit. So you want to understand here that, again, for example, with scrolling your phone, why it's addictive? Because it stimulates your dopamine receptors, it seems, and whatever stimulates your dopamine receptors, that behavior sticks, it's stuck with you, even though you never plan to make a habit out of it, right? And that's the power of dopamine. So the first thing to break in any habitual automatic pattern is making it conscious, putting it from the automatic part of your brain into your conscious awareness. And one of the best ways that researchers found to do that, and you might not even heard about it, making it conscious by taking a specific action when you notice you doing this habit. So let's say you started scrolling your phone. And once you notice it and you're aware that you just started scrolling your phone, even though you want to quit, you do a couple of push-ups. Like literally, you stop right then and there and you do a couple of push-ups. After a few times, maybe after the first time, your brain will notice, because that action is unusual for you, like for most people, just drop on the floor and do a few push-ups. And also it requires additional energy. And anything that takes your energy, the brain notices really fast. So the more you do it, the more conscious you become of this habit. So this is step number one. You gotta become conscious of this habit. You gotta put it from automatic part of your brain into your conscious awareness. The second is the interrupt the pattern. Okay, now you notice, very often you would notice even before or right at the beginning of that scroll. Now you have to interrupt the pattern. Basically, you have to do something else. You can start a little bit of a workout. You can go and read something. You can go and do some work. You can go and prepare some food on next for tomorrow. You can go out, like depending on the context and what makes sense in your life. You can call your friend, you can call your mom, you can call, do another cold call for your business, whatever that is. Just do something else, do the pattern interrupt, and eventually replace this habit. Replacement for quitting habits works better. It always works better. So not just doing it in a vacuum, but replacing it. So maybe on your phone you can, I don't know if it works for you or not, but do a couple of push-ups and then start reading a book. And then after a while, you pick up your phone, and while thinking about that scrolling, you might start reading the book automatically. But it's always about the replacement. Or maybe again, you notice you're about to scroll that phone, put the phone down, and then go do some work, go do a cold call, because of my sales, that's the only thing I can think of. But just understand that replacement is always easier, and that's what will help you to quit the habit. Maybe if it's smoking, I don't know, chew a gum, eat an apple, whatever again makes sense. Do a few squat jumps. But the first, the first part is very important, is to make what became automatic, like scrolling your phone or maybe eating without, even thinking about that on autopilot because you're stressed or busy doing something. So first is make it conscious by introducing some weird action into your routine. As soon as you notice you start eating, you just do a couple of push-ups, and after a while, you'll stop eating before the first bite. So that's the idea. And that's about it, folks. Hope now you have a better toolkit for building your habits. And whenever, if you are a client of mine and you're listening to this podcast, so whenever I introduce a new habit, please think of this whole process. How can you make it tiny? How can you build consistency? How can you track it? How can you install hot triggers and make your environment help you? How can you, again, track progress, celebrate to get this dopamine boost to help you to wire the habit faster? And then, of course, create the recipes, how, when, and where you're going to do this habit. And don't forget to tie it all in to your new identity. Why you're doing this? Who are you building with this habit, right? What future version of yourself are you investing in with this habit right now? And why, again, doing this habit is important. And that's about it. And if you're not a client of mine and might be considering performance coaching to do your absolute best to learn how your brain works, to push your own buttons, to cancel your procrastination, to know how to boost your motivation, to know how to be in control of your productivity and your focus, and to improve your memory and learn how to get into flow state and not get fatigued by working a lot. When you work on your vision, very often it will require you working a lot. But how do you not get fatigued and just keep going, enjoying the process instead of feeling like you are employed by your vision, right? Feeling stressed. So all of that I can teach you how to do based on the current scientific research put into simple habits and processes and frameworks. So email me, angela@brainbreakthroughcoach.com, if you're interested. The challenge, by the way, that's going to be announced on the next podcast is coming along nicely. The link to sign up Boost Your Brain for Business Challenge will be up very, very soon. What else about the announcements? I think, folks, that's it. Just build your habits, use a smarter way. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a lot of energy and time. And we know that our brain does not like that waste. So use a better process and things are going to take less time, less energy, and you'll make progress in life and business much faster. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Thank you for listening. Go enjoy that first summer day, and I'll talk to you very soon.